Well, hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Colley, and I'm president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. On behalf of our entire team, thanks so much for joining us today. It is probably the most exciting and most anticipated event that we do every year at the foundation, and we're just so glad to have you with us. I'd also like to give a big shout out to FedEx Freight, our sponsor, who's with us here again this year. We've been doing this program together for 5 years, and it just keeps getting better every year. They provide not only financial support for things like the prize money today, but real engagement and commitment and support from senior executives. Senior executives like Lance Moll, who you'll meet in a few minutes. Lance is the president and CEO of FedEx Freight and has been a great friend to the foundation and to this program. We're also really looking forward to hearing from Kelsey Davis, the founder and CEO of Collective. You might have seen her on Forbes's 2021 list of 30 under 30 Gen Z founders who are shaping the future of work. I hope and kind of expect that in the years to come, we'll see one or two of the MBA students today appear on that list as well. Kelsey's going to share her own story as a Black entrepreneur and how she overcame obstacles to launch her own company. She's really interesting and really cool, and we're so glad to have her here today. Now, I'd like to take a minute or two to tell you a little bit about the foundation and why we care so much about this work and this competition and how we crafted the prompt today. At the foundation, our mission is to educate the public on how business does well, does good, and prepares for the future. And we know that those things really can't happen without a critical component, which is access to capital. Without it, entrepreneurs and business owners can't grow like they should and could. They can't invest and they can't create the kinds of jobs that we all need and want. It's important to us because we know how important a job is to a person and their family and their community. And so we're doing everything we can to engage people and talk about the environment that's needed to achieve that and ensure more fair and more equitable and more inclusive opportunities for more people in more places. It's a real commitment that we share at the foundation. Because look, the terrible fact is that right now, it's not very equitable or fair or inclusive as it could be. The United States consistently ranks at the top of the list of countries that provide the easiest access to capital. But that is not translating to Black business owners who are continually impacted by a lack of financial inclusion. Here are a couple of startling statistics. 56% of Black business owners reported obstacles in obtaining credit. And that then cascades and it causes many setbacks in their ability to grow and continue to do the innovating and creating that made them entrepreneurs in the first place. 82% of entrepreneurs of color say they must work harder to gain the same success when compared to their non-diverse peers. So our case competition today is focused on how to address some of these systemic issues and turn it around for the future. For us, it's more important than ever, and for all of the people that we work with across the country in local chambers and communities. At the foundation, we're optimistic about a vision for the future, and we're really invested in future leaders like the MBA students who've competed to get to this stage and to the finalists that you'll see here today. Just about every program in the foundation is created on more opportunity for more people in more places, and we've been doing that work for years. Last year, we went harder in by joining with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on an equality of opportunity initiative. We're so committed to matching words with actions, and we lasered in on 4 key areas where the Chamber and the foundation and the business community really has a role and can really have impact. We chose to really dig into education, employment, of course, entrepreneurship, of course, and criminal justice and more opportunities for ex-offenders. Soon after that, the Chamber Foundation launched a new initiative called the Coalition to Back Black Businesses. We joined forces with the nation's 4 leading Black chambers of commerce, American Express, and other corporate supporters to put in place a quite substantial grant program whereby we're providing direct financial assistance along with mentorship and along with resources to Black business owners around the country. At this point, we've distributed more than $14 million in grants to help small Black business owners grow. We've delivered grants to more than 1,100 owners in 40 states. And that money is helping them with operating funds. In some cases, they're able to purchase another vehicle, to do more online marketing, to hire another employee. So we know that even the little bit of capital that we can help with is making a big difference in their ability to grow. We're really proud of this work, and we look forward to expanding over the next couple of years. So that brings us back to our MBA case competition, which we've been doing, as I said, for 5 years. This year, we wanted to take all of those concerns and all of that work we're doing and focus in on access to capital. And we were so encouraged to see so much interest from MBA students, not only across the US, but from around the globe, who really took this seriously and submitted their own solutions and their best thinking. These submissions were so smart and so thoughtful and so impactful. It just makes us feel so positive about the future and our future generations of leaders. So today we're down to 3 teams, the top 3. And like all the others, they have formulated an investment strategy for a fictional bank called the Equitable Community Bank, or ECB. You're going to hear a lot more about that from them today. And their goal is how to increase access to capital for Black entrepreneurs. So they will illustrate how companies can implement new initiatives to address shortcomings that impact historically underrepresented communities and create new opportunities for them to thrive. So for all 3 teams today, for all the students who are competing, just know that every one of your submissions was exceptional, and we can't wait to see you bring them to life. As a reminder, the first place team will leave here today with $10,000, which we know when you're students can really help out a lot. Now, I'd like to introduce the judges who play a really important role here today, and they are prepared, they've been briefed, they've delved through the cases, and they're ready to hear the live presentations. First, let me introduce David, Jeff, Bonnie, and our case writer, Dr. Washington. David Hirschman is a member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation Advisory Board, and he's the president of a lot of things here at the Chamber. You know, when you're really good at a job, you just keep getting more responsibility in more areas. David is the president and CEO of the Center for Capital Markets Competitiveness at the Chamber. He's also the president and CEO of the Global Innovation Policy Center and the Chamber Technology Engagement Center. And on top of all of that, he serves as an executive vice president of the Chamber. So what all of this means is that he is a leading expert on a lot of things and all of the ways that companies raise money on the markets and use money, amongst many, many other skills. A fun fact about David is that he led the foundation a few years before I did. So he's a predecessor and an advisor in so many ways. So David, thank you for being with us today. I'm also really excited to welcome back Jeff Greer from FedEx Freight. Jeff is a senior vice president of human resources at the company, and he's been part of this case competition since the beginning. Jeff is responsible for all aspects of FedEx Freight's workforce, and that runs the whole route from diversity and recruitment to compensation and employee relations. He also oversees the safety department. So he's a person who's really looking at new and young and up and coming talent. So congratulations, Jeff. I understand that you're soon to be a grandfather. We can't wait to hear for that news. And we're just glad to have you with us today. Our third judge is Bonnie Voldeng, Vice President of FedEx Freight Direct. She's bringing her expertise in strategic short-range and long-range objectives, including how do you accelerate to market, how do you scale, develop, and grow across the country. She's very familiar with these cases and the work you're doing today, and you would know that because she herself earned an MBA from the University of Memphis, in addition to her BBA in marketing and logistics. So you've got some folks today who really know what they're looking for from the employer side. Finally, really a big thank you to Dr. Ella Washington, without whom we could not have done this case. Ella is a management faculty member at Georgetown's McDonough School of Business. And in addition to her academic career, she provides diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy consulting for leaders who are looking to commit to systemic cultural change in the ways that they recruit and engage and develop talent and then assess performance. So another crucial part of this case competition and the panel today. So thank you so much for being with us. We can't wait to hear the cases. We can't wait to see the winners. And I'll turn it over now to Dr. Washington. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, and to the Chamber for having me here today. I'm so excited about this case competition. It's been a pleasure working with you all and the Foundation's team this year. We and the rest of my team, we had the pleasure to review the submissions and be a part of the judges panel. And so, you know, in looking at all of the wonderful submissions, they were truly remarkable. And I'm honored to be here today to see our finalists present, to have some interaction with the rest of the judges panel and to see, you know, who will come out on top here today. And so in alphabetical order, we'll now hear from our teams from NYU, Rice University, and Temple University. I'll then lead a 6-minute question and answer portion following each presentation. So now it's the moment we've all been waiting for, so let's get to it. Kicking off the competition is the Leonard N. Stern School of Business at New York University.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. I have never been more proud to work at Equitable Quality Bank as I am today as we present ECB's Equity Initiative. ECB's recognition that this $10 million investment is both a phenomenal business decision and a moral one. We believe that this investment will be best utilized through opening a new branch location in Corktown, Detroit, and investing in the robust Black startup community that exists in the greater Detroit metro area. Before I begin, I would love to introduce my extraordinary team. I'm Rachel Craig, and I'm joined by my colleagues Brittany Fidalgo and Gustavo Resende. Today, we will be going over the ideas behind the Equity Initiative, starting with ECB's impact, running through why Corktown, explaining our decisions for funding allocation, and finally discussing the metrics behind assessing and measuring success. We have two primary objectives for the Equity Initiative. The first is to support the local Black-owned businesses with loans and additional resources and partnerships. And the second is to establish ECB as one of the first bank branches in Corktown by 2022, and to ultimately become a trusted bank for generations to come in the holistic Detroit metro area. In doing the research for this project, we were sadly not as surprised as we ought to have been to find that Black founders receive only 1% of venture capital funding. In opening this branch in Corktown, ECB would be a primary feature in helping to increase access to capital for Black founders through partnering with local businesses already existent in the startup community. Brittany will discuss that a little bit more further. Second, we'd be able to establish ECB as a leader in addressing inequality. This issue is not new and it's not going away. Finally, we'd be able to create a long-term strategy for continued investments. By utilizing Corktown as a model, ECB would ultimately be able to hopefully enact these changes on a nationwide scale. So you might be wondering, why Corktown? Why Detroit? Detroit has 78.3% population that identifies as Black, and currently 49,000 Black-owned businesses. That makes up about 80% of Detroit's small business scene, And as we know, having an infrastructure is essential for success. The opportunity to improve access to capital in Corktown in particular is tremendous. We were shocked to find that the city only has 2 ATMs, one Chase and one Bitcoin. And so operating in a city that already has high test scores, high average education levels, but providing this essential resource will provide ECB with an opportunity to establish itself and to grow. Finally, ECB would have the opportunity to join Metro Detroit, which would provide access both to the startup community we hope to fund and to the wider business community. The need for this cannot be understated. We utilized 4 metrics to really focus our thinking in how we can be impactful, looking at family wealth, community context, family savings, and family income. As this graph shows, the white American community, while polled, roughly 30% explained and issued the expectation to receive an inheritance or had already received one, as compared with less than 10% of the Black community. And on the other side, when looking at rainy day funds, 70+% of the white community expressed the opportunity that they could get $3,000 from friends, while less than 45% of the Black community expressed the same. This tremendous gap is something that ECB can look at and address directly, and something that my colleague Brittany will walk through in more depth.
Thank you, Rachel. So yes, I'll be sharing a little bit more about how we plan to use our $10 million in Corktown in building this new branch in the city. So like Rachel mentioned, we've identified Corktown as our town to build our branch, and we don't want this to be a typical bank. We want it to be a multifunctional facility where the Black business owners and entrepreneurs that we're partnering and working with can come in and work together in a shared space and use it for additional programming and innovation. So we really see it as becoming a hub for the community. So because of that, we are allocating $1 million to the purchase of the building and redesign of the space. So with staffing, of course, we'll be following our current procedures for hiring, allowing bank transfers, and also hiring within the community. But we want to be, keep it on top of mind of having community engagement. So we want to hire a community engagement officer who will be working full-time at the branch, working to engage with business leaders, identify Black business leaders in the community that we can partner with, and organizations as well that we can do programming with. So they'll be spearheading that initiative within the bank. And it won't be a siloed role. They'll also be working with the national C-suite executives and sharing the success stories of everything that's happening at the branch, so that long-term, this can be extended into other cities and other branches. So in talking about programming, we plan to have a flagship event called Biannual Launch Night. And this is going to be a Shark Tank style competition where Black business owners, entrepreneurs can come in, pitch their ideas to VCs and local investors, and for a chance to win $250,000 in grant money, along with loans offered by ECB. So in order to fund this, we're dedicating $3 million to establish an endowment specifically for this program, so we can have that going for the long term. And last but not least, the remaining $5 million we intend to allocate to direct loans to these businesses. Like Rachel mentioned, there is a wealth gap and access to capital gap for Black families and communities. So being able to distribute this type of financing with low interest rates, working with SBA loans is going to be essential in making a long-term impact. So I mentioned a couple partners that we have identified and want to work with. I just want to highlight a few of those. So along with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we definitely want to work with our local Chamber of Commerce. So that's the Detroit Regional Chamber. It's over 100 years old, one of the oldest, most respected chambers in the country. So it's crucial for us to partner with them. We also plan to partner with Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance. They have a wonderful network of Black business owners, and that just aligns with our mission 100%. And last but not least, Techtown Detroit offers even more customized, tailored training specific to Black founders. So again, we envision our community engagement officer working with these groups and these folks to really develop strong, lasting relationships in the community. So next, Gustavo will be speaking more about how we've assessed our projects and measuring success.
Thank you, Brittany. The success of the project will be based on three main pillars. That's success for the community, success for entrepreneurs, and success for ECB. Each project will be assessed based on financial and social metrics. Financial metrics to ensure entrepreneurs are successful, and the social metrics to ensure that success is shared with the community. So we're looking into the project return, each project return on investment, and on the financial side, and we're looking into the current number of employees, the number of newly created full-time jobs by the project, the percentage of the business current Black employees, and finally, we give away a 5% target industry bonus to make sure that Black entrepreneurs are able to break into industries where they are historically underrepresented. When we put all the projects together, all the funded projects together, we're able to calculate the social return on investment, which sums up success for the community and for entrepreneurs. In addition to that, we calculate a return on invested capital, and by weighing each of the KPIs with 50%, we have the bottom line success of the project, which is the aggregate return on investment. In addition to aggregate return on investment, we have specific goals to make sure we are properly remunerating capital for entrepreneurs, that the equity initiative is profitable, and that the entire community benefits. By putting together the structure Rachel and Brittany presented and this incentive structure, we can make sure that the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Corktown is benefited in its entirety. And that's why we're excited to share about our next steps. For March next year, we want to have purchased the bank location. And by November, we expect to have a soft opening of the Corktown branch, including the lunch night and the shared workspace. By 2025, we expect to have loaned at least $5 million to Black entrepreneurs. And after this time frame, we want to define new targets for loans, taking into account the profitability, the success of the project, and making sure we are able to build a long-standing relationship with the Corktown community. Thank you for having us today. We are open to discuss the project further.
Thank you so much, New York University. Job well done. We're excited to ask you some questions. So let's have Jeff ask the first question.
All right. First of all, great presentation. So let me ask, Detroit, given the stats that y'all read off, over 40% Black-owned businesses, 49,000. What was it about this location that you saw the additional need for the access to capital?
That's a great question. We were attracted to Detroit for two reasons, both because of the existing infrastructure, which we thought was essential in order for small businesses and startups to really get off the ground and thrive. And then second, for the tremendous need. So Detroit as a city has really been investing in the small business and startup community because of the traditional and historic lack of resources specifically focused on the Black community. We also identified partner organizations that already work with these organizations, with these startup communities and with Black entrepreneurs in particular, to provide the resources that maybe the bank wouldn't want to provide, but would support the broader loan and other infrastructure that we would be able to create additional added value in a very unique ECB oriented way.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So one question that I had was, you mentioned in your submission how this area of Detroit specifically is kind of a bank desert, right? And we wanted to understand a bit more, in that it's a bank desert, why is that the case? Were banks there previously? Did they leave? Are there any historical or cultural elements that we would want to consider before moving forward with this new initiative in that particular location?
Yes, I would say, well, first off, thank you all for being here and listening to our presentation. And to answer your question, we did take a deep dive into the different neighborhoods and understanding who lives there, what does the education levels look like, income levels, all of that. And it's all positive in Corktown. So we're like, okay, like people are doing well, successful here, thriving here. Why do they not have access to banks? Like, why is that not within their vicinity? And we do see there's a large kind of ratio of banks in downtown Detroit. It just seems to be a larger district there, but not as much as you move further away. And there are people in the surrounding neighborhoods as well, that need access to these banks. So we chose Corktown because of that. And we are conscious, there is like a highway that kind of divides Corktown and the neighboring neighborhood that may have played a role into why some of the businesses there don't exist, or why banks don't exist on that side of town. But we're confident that we're still going to bring in the businesses to us, and we want to make it available to people in those spaces, especially if our partners are working with small businesses in those areas as well.
Thanks, Brittany. Bonnie, we'll turn it to you for any questions.
Okay, so given the fact that there is so much investment, and you guys talk about the fact that there's so many partners that you can partner with, do you feel like there's already oversaturation in this market?
Apologies, on mute. I do not. When we were doing this research, as much as there is in this market, the need is tremendous, and they're all growing for a reason. There are the businesses on the ground that want and need the capital. There are the startups that continue to apply. And these programs we find are graduating startup classes. But one of the missing components, it seems, is this access to capital. So Techtown was recently able to launch a new grant program in particular, but they're limited in scope. So being able to go in and offer both grants and then ultimately small business loans, we'd be offering tremendous added value to a community that really, I think, will grow to fit the size of the vessel that it is given.
Fantastic. And just want to know, it's clear that you did great research on kind of other players in this space. What sets your proposed program apart from other players and maybe have tried to do similar things, whether it be in Detroit or other areas?
I think for us, in coming into this community, we're being very intentional about making and building lasting relationships with the people who have already established themselves as leaders in the space. So we're not coming in to take over any existing programs, but we want to create synergies between us and Techtown, us and the regional commerce. So I think that's going to differentiate us from some of the other programs who have attempted to come in, because we are going to be utilizing local talent, and also our key hire, our engagement officer, will be bringing this back at a national level so that we can repeat this in other areas. So it will be long lasting.
Building on what Brittany said, we are so conscious that we are building on the bread and butter of ECB. As a community bank that thrives in providing loans to small businesses, we believe that we're uniquely equipped to really enter this community and to grow and to thrive.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, New York University. That is our time for question and answer. Very well done. Now we'll move on to our second round, Rice University.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming here to discuss the new initiative of ECB to provide access to capital to underrepresented communities. And we have decided to support the Black community as phase one of this project. Before moving into the core of the strategy, our team really wanted to know, why do Black businesses face higher failure rate? And why is the self-employment rate parity been constant for 90 years? And what is stopping Black businesses to flourish disproportionately? We looked at some research, and we found out that private lenders are less likely to invest in Black businesses. And on top of that, because of lack of education among Black businesses, banks are not able to lend loans to Black businesses, which creates limited financial resources for Black businesses. On the top of that, another main reason that inhibiting growth of Black businesses is lack of self-employed family members, which is correlated to informal mentorship that a general business get from a self-employed member, which affects the sustainability, growth, and profitability of any business. To launch the new initiative, we would suggest Tulsa, Oklahoma as a potential new branch. And I would like to take you back a century when Black Wall Street at Tulsa, Oklahoma was booming with 70 Black businesses, and it was a mecca for Black young entrepreneurs who would get opportunities that they would not get anywhere else. Unfortunately, the massacre of 1921 changed history, and Black community tumbled down to high poverty and unemployment rates and low education rates. Because Tulsa has such a rich history of Black entrepreneurship, and the Black community is in need of upliftment, we want to go ahead and open the branch in Tulsa. And not only the rich history, but Tulsa also presents a lot of promising population with 15% Black population and 25% population under 18. And Tulsa has been seeing a growing number of Black businesses, especially since the last year's movement of Black Lives Matters. The medium size of Tulsa resonates with the ECB's strong points of operating in medium-sized and small geographical areas. And lastly, the Oklahoma government's pro-business policies will help businesses flourish, and together the bank and government can really uplift the entrepreneurs in Oklahoma. I'll pass it to Nick now to deep dive into our strategy.
Yeah, thanks, Abhi. Like Abhi mentioned, Tulsa really provides an excellent opportunity to open a new branch just because of the benefits of community banking. And based on this, ECB and us decided to propose a strategy called the Tulsa Racial Equity Engagement, TREE for short. This program really takes in 3 areas that can be useful to Black businesses going forward. Obviously, the first one is lending, followed by more of a mentorship and allow businesses to kind of get that educational area to succeed once they do get those funds. And finally, we'd like to create a sustainable long-term program that will result in future leaders and the next generation of Black business owners in Tulsa. Just to look at the program directly in this area, there's a lending program which really focuses on making businesses bankable. That's one area that small businesses and especially Black businesses struggle to know what banks are looking for when they apply for a loan. We're going to obviously have some metrics that'll cover the business and it'll provide some transparency so business owners know where to look. And finally, we'll have capital solutions that'll fit businesses based on their risk profile and that are best suited for them to succeed going forward. One area to really tackle the problem with transparency in community banks is for ECB and the TREE program to implement this lending rubric that'll really summarize and show what the bank is looking for when they're underwriting the business's loan. When you're going through this, it'll help, one, get rid of bias with loan officers and underwriters at the bank, but two, it'll also help for business owners to understand what the bank is looking at so that they can focus and make their business bankable. Now, going forward, obviously the least risky loan is going to actually be traditional financing. I won't go into too much detail because that is your typical bank loan. But what I'm excited for to really look at next is SBA financing, which will be through 7A and 405 loans. The 7A loans provide a really unique opportunity because we will be able to sell the guarantee and take the proceeds and invest that back into the Tulsa community, which really allows us to stretch the dollar. Finally, we have microloans, which will actually be a little bit smaller. You can see that the ECBs through the TREE program is only going to allocate $1.25 million towards this. However, we think we can really outreach to the program because the average loan amount is going to be about $20,000. So we expect to get around 80 to 100 businesses with these microloans. This chart here is really unique and shows how ECB and the TREE program can really stretch its dollar by going forward and really expanding and understanding how we can go from the $8 million allocation to distributing up to almost $20 million in funds and really making the best use out of our money. As you can also see with SBA financing and microloans, the outreach in the community there, we'll be able to issue up to 200 loans and really get money in the hands of businesses. However, this is just one area that we're focusing on, and I'd like to move forward and talk a little bit more about the educational side of the TREE program. So the TREE program will have a mentorship area. We'll partner with local businesses so that they're able to understand and have the resources to help them succeed once they do get that capital from ECB. Like I mentioned previously, we'll be able to partner with local organizations such as the Black Chamber of Commerce and Black Wall Street, and really organize events such as educational workshops that'll allow business owners to come together, really improve their financial literacy and create a sustainable solution for them once they do have these funds. And another addition or benefit of community banking is going to be the opportunity to network with fellow businesses and network with your banker. This is one intangible benefit of community banks that many small businesses, if they're not able to walk into a community bank and receive a loan, they don't reap these benefits. So now I'd like to pass it on to Maya to explain the final leg of this TREE program.
Thanks, Nick. So as you mentioned, this is the final aspect of our program, and it is the TREE Future Leaders Program. At ECB, we're really excited to invest in the community in the long term. And to do that, we recognize that we need to build the entrepreneurship spirit in Tulsa. So to do that, we plan on partnering with Langston University, which is Oklahoma's only historically Black college, happens to be located in Tulsa. And we want to help them build a business innovation lab. By providing them with a $50K funding pool, we can help start up the lab as well as fund any creative projects that the students come up with. This was based off of the Lilly Lab for Entrepreneurs at Rice University, which has been churning out successful entrepreneurs for over a decade now. In addition to building this lab, we would like to sponsor 10 students with internships where they will earn real life experience, start building their networks, and also earn a $5,000 award at the end, which could go to fund their future business. The businesses that they will be partnering with are going to be recipients of the TREE loans, and they will receive assistance in the form of human capital, and that'll be from innovative and driven students. So of course, we recognize that one of the key factors to success is going to be employee involvement here at ECB. As soon as this is approved, we hope to make an announcement and set up a town hall where we will encourage relocation to Tulsa, or if that's not possible for the employees, we hope that they will at least act as a representative in any of these workshops and informational programs. We're really excited to be involved in the community, and we want to make sure that Tulsa sees that as well. So there are a few risks with the TREE program, which we'll go over right now. The first is going to be loan defaults, which could lead to, which could threaten the branch sustainability. We had this in mind when we created the rubric and made it very transparent. So we made sure that we are going to be giving money to businesses we truly believe will succeed. And same thing in mind with the Tree Mentorship Program. We want to see them be successful. The second risk is community skepticism. We are an outsider coming into a tight-knit community. So to mitigate this risk, we plan on sourcing over 50% of the branch employees from the local community, in addition to partnering with other local organizations besides Langston University and the Black Wall Street Chambers of Commerce. Final risk is going to be a dearth of resources. We had 10 million allocated. That might not be enough. That's why we've decided to sell the SBA guarantees, and we're going to inject all of those proceeds back into Tulsa. Keeping in mind the terms of the loan will not change. There will be transparency in distribution, and we will remain the main bankers for these businesses. So finally, I want to go over how we're going to measure our success in Tulsa. We've created a roadmap to keep track of all of our goals and when we're going to be measuring these metrics of success. So I want to go into detail a little bit more about each of them. First is going to be reach, and we'll measure that in the number and amount of loans we're able to hand out. Second is going to be in performance. After 5 years, we are going to review the businesses that we gave loans to and see if their score went up. And of course, we'll measure it in the default rate as well. Short-term impact, we really want to look at the Tree Lab. And finally, the long-term impact is when we're going to be monitoring all of those important metrics such as home ownership, poverty levels, and college education to see if we've really made an impact in this community. So in conclusion, we would love to bring the Tree program to Tulsa, and we look forward to any questions you may have.
Excellent job, Rice University. Thank you so much for your time and energy. So I'll turn it over to Bonnie for our first question.
Okay, so you mentioned one of your risks being community skepticism, and clearly there are some deep-seated, historic negative stigma in the Black community around Tulsa. So what specifically, how are you guys really going to change that trajectory and really build the trust, given the fact that it is, the funds are coming from an outside location?
Yeah, so this was something that was really important to us, especially when we learned that rich history about Tulsa. And so we knew that there were going to be some hurdles that we had to overcome when entering this community. So that's why we paid special attention to partnerships in the community, local organizations, as well as investing in the community over a long period of time. We're hoping that through our programs and investments, the Tulsa community can really see that we're not here just to donate a bunch of money and then leave. We want to become part of their community and then eventually be integrated into their community. And hopefully that will overcome some of those seeds of mistrust.
David, I'll let you ask the next question.
Really delighted to see how well thought through you had thought both the inception of this as well as the mentorship component. It's something we see all the time. It's the access to know-how is just as important as the access to capital. In that regard, what do you anticipate being the most urgent needs for businesses that you're going to attract? Is it startup costs? Is it equipment costs? Is it expansion? Is it cash flow? What do you think the most urgent needs you're going to find in the community are?
Yeah, so I think there have been, so we are focusing on different kinds of businesses here, especially like one part of our program would be to focus on entrepreneurs who are looking for a startup cause, just to like give that push and give that seed injection so that they can come in the game. That's why we are having the microloans program, so that we can help them getting started with the business. Also, we are focusing on businesses that are established and have been in the market for some time. And we have noticed that because there has been less access to capital, many Black businesses fail because they can't grow and they can't expand because of lack of capital and lack of mentorship. So we really want to focus on those businesses that, for one, they have the capital they need to grow, and two, they have the support to use that capital to actually grow their business.
Excellent. So one question I had was, I really liked how you had a tiered system of, if applicants didn't have the best score on, the loan application. And I loved what you did for the bottom tier of people that scored in the 2 to 3 range of giving them microloans. But I was wondering, after the 3-year period, is there a plan to help these folks kind of qualify for the larger loans if they, honor their 3-year commitment, or kind of what's next after a group kind of goes through that microloan process?
A little bit more on that. So once they do receive those microloans, like we said, it's supposed to serve as more of a hybrid of like an equity injection at first, but in the form of a bank, because we are a bank. One benefit, though, of community banking is that mentorship, especially from the banker, and ability to really reap in some of the community benefits as well. So the plan is, as the company grows for those 3 years that the expected term length is going to be for the microloans, that the banker and some of the resources provided by the community bank will actually help it grow into maybe an SBA loan or a traditional financing loan, which is a little bit different from like a fintech will give you that seed capital, but won't help you grow and mentor you and allow you to make those business decisions to get you to the next level.
Very good. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, and I just want to kind of stay with the concepts of the rubrics in terms of the metrics you're going to use. So at the bottom of the scale, you have 2 to 3 points, and you would qualify for these microloans. I'm curious though, because the rate in terms of the interest, 2 to 3%, is significantly smaller than the larger loans at 6 to 7%, where you potentially have more risk to deal with. I mean, was that by design? You're going to have some amount of risk that's just acceptable at the onset?
Yeah, so I'll also expand on that. What happened was, I mean, as a previous banker, I've kind of rolled over by giving higher risk, lower rates. But part of that, we wanted to serve more as an injection. And we understand, because of the low loan amount expected, average loan size about 20,000, that there will be some of these that actually fail. However, we don't want the interest expense to become a burden for some of these startups. And so that's why these micro loans are really important, and they're one aspect that's unique to the TREE program.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, another round of applause for Rice University. Well done, well done. And now we're going to move to our third group from Temple University. So welcome, Temple University.
Thank you for joining us today to listen to our North Philadelphia Community Engagement Project proposal for ECB's newest community bank branch. I am Jeffrey Middleberg, and with me today are Philip Bellis and Jacob Landwehr. The project consists of opening a new bank branch location in a historically underserved Black community and investing $10 million in Black-owned small businesses over the next 5 to 10 years. Our presentation will begin with Philip giving a community overview, followed by an explanation of the proposed hub and spoke model for the bank branch, including a partnership with a local university. I will then discuss the bank's loan structures, and Jacob will cover financial analysis and KPIs. Phil, take it away.
Thank you, Jeffrey. According to the Federal Reserve Bank's 2020 Small Business Credit Survey, Black-owned small businesses have greater difficulty obtaining financial assistance than other demographics. As can be seen on this slide, this disparity extends to satisfaction with small banks. ECB will need to be intentional in its community engagement and outreach efforts to address these established facts. Philadelphia is the 6th largest city in the US with a population of 1.6 million, 38% of which is Black. The median household income is $46,000 and 24% of the city lives in poverty. In North Philadelphia, specifically along the North Broad Street corridor, these numbers look different. Within 3 of the 4 primary zip codes surrounding our proposed bank location, approximately 80% of the population is Black, with an average household income of $24,700. 37% of households earn below $15,000 annually. According to the North Broad Street Renaissance, 1,300 small businesses need financial assistance. While many only associate North Philadelphia with poverty, crime, and blight, this could not be further from the truth. The various communities take great pride in their neighborhoods. In fact, Philadelphia has almost 70 economic development and/or community revitalization organizations. It is imperative that the bank collaborates with this already robust network to assess both the wants and needs of the area prior to enacting any initiative. It will not be the role of ECB to undo, redo, or compete with these efforts. We will be able to, however, provide the necessary financial capital to assist hard work being done by groups such as the North Broad Renaissance and the Lower North Philadelphia Community Development Corporation. The bank branch itself will serve as the hub of our community outreach-based model. Bank representatives will act as spokes, engaging with community members and organizations, tying all relationships back to the branch office. The relationships will be the base upon which a community advisory panel is built. The panel will consist of influential community members such as pastors, philanthropists, and advocates for the community who are able to help guide the direction of the new ECB branch. We propose that the branch be located just off Temple University's main campus along Cecil B. Moore Avenue, an important commercial corridor in North Philadelphia. The location reinforces the partnership with the university and enables ECB to supplement the $10 million capital commitment with quality financial literacy programs, counseling, and support services available to the entire community. Further community outreach will come in the form of a scholarship program for Black local high school students who will be attending Temple University. Jeffrey will now discuss the bank's loan structures.
Thanks, Phil. The first loan structure we recommend is that ECB create its own microloan program. Second, ECB should participate in the SBA, Small Business Administration 7A program. And third, connect its partners with outside resources such as the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation. I am now going to explain the particulars of the SBA microloan program. However, we do not recommend that the board participate in the program because it presents hurdles that may do more harm than good. Our intention is to use the SBA microloan program as a template to replicate our own program. The SBA microloan program average loan size is $13,000. The term of an SBA microloan is 6 years. The interest rate for borrowers is between 7.5% and 8.5%, depending on the size of the loan. The Small Business Administration requires that the bank reserve 15% of the loan principal as protection against loan defaults. Loan defaults are inevitable with any loan program. The SBA requires that borrowers offer personal guarantees. We believe this is inequitable to our community partners because personal guarantees of entrepreneurs unfairly advantage those with access to wealth. We will not require microloan borrowers to make personal guarantees. Second, we will participate in the SBA 7A program. The advantage of this program is that the SBA substantially guarantees loan losses. The average loan size of a 7A loan is $150,000. The term is 10 years. The interest rate is 6 6/10%. The bank posts 10% of the principal in a loan loss reserve fund, and the borrower posts a personal guarantee. While we do believe that with microloans, it is unfair to require a personal guarantee, we believe in this instance with the larger 7A loans that we can work with our partners to find innovative solutions to put up assets as a personal guarantee. The borrower must also seek outside equity investment first before obtaining a 7A loan. We believe by developing strong relationships with our partners, ECB can introduce entrepreneurs of color to equity investors. For the reasons Phil has outlined, we believe we can demonstrate an inability to access capital elsewhere. As businesses continue to grow, we will introduce partners to outside resources such as the Philadelphia IDC, which offers working capital and equipment loans, real estate loans, and contract lines of credit. At that point, our partners will be established enough to compete for traditional bank loan products. Now, I will hand it off to Jacob, who will take you through the financial analysis and planning.
Thanks, Jeffrey. So I'd like to walk you through a high-level financial analysis and the pro forma income statement that we created based on an existing bank branch that currently has about 10 million in deposits and houses about 11 million in loans. And it currently employs a branch manager and 2 universal bankers, of which will be staff members that act as community ambassadors to help advertise ECB's unique services to attract new customers to open accounts. We believe that we need about 4.3 million in deposits to be able to break even, which I'll mention in a moment. But first, I'd like to walk you through each individual nominal account. We created these accounts. We analyzed these figures from current and previous months of this existing bank to create an appropriate range. And from that range, we found an approximate average, which are the figures shown on the slide. Once we were able to calculate the monthly estimates, we then created this table that represents our forecasts for the monthly, the yearly, and the 10-year figures for the accounts of interest income, interest expenses, operating expenses, and net income. Unlike the ranges we used for the nominal accounts, we created a separate model for net income because banks inevitably have a large variability in the branch by branch net income per month. It's very challenging for particular branches to perform, especially within the first year of operations, but we are confident that the hub and spoke model that we have discussed will enable ECB to attract the clients it needs to reach the break-even target. So now I'll talk about the break-even and profitability model that we created. As I mentioned, we need about 4.3 million in deposits, and to get there, it'll be very challenging to obtain without relying on external forces, but our primary goal is to use internal forces. So how will we do that? First, as Jeffrey mentioned, ECB must cover 15% of what it loans in microloan and 10% of the principal in the 7A loan program in-house to cover losses on microloan defaults. Also, the national median bank account of an American is 1,200, and looking at the population, as Phil discussed, of North Philadelphia, which is about 100,000 people, if we open 10,000 accounts, that's about 1/3 of the population, then we'll be able to hit our target, and that's only 10% of North Philadelphia. So, as I mentioned, and I'd like to reiterate, hiring universal bankers who have ties to the community, having an advisory committee within the community, and developing relationships with stakeholders and community members of North Philadelphia, and having a business mentoring program with Temple University are all reasons why we believe this initiative can be successful in acquiring the business needed for ECB to reach its break-even point and subsequently become profitable. While we do feel that utilizing community resources is key to the success of this program, we also understand that there are other alternatives, including a partnership with a large banking institution that has the financial resources to help absorb our operating costs throughout the first year of business. But our initial approach will be to focus internally on developing a program where ECB acts as a primary hub. This will be a challenge, but clearly the benefits outweigh the costs. There is a need to create more equitable access to Black entrepreneurs, and ECB has provided the solution. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. We look forward to answering any questions you may have about our North Philadelphia Community Engagement Project.
I'll invite Bonnie and David to ask a question.
So great job. Just a quick question, going back to the community advisor panel. How would you really measure the success of that panel?
The community advisory panel success is really going to come down to that feedback that we receive and how many loans that we are able to successfully distribute to the community, which I will let Jeffrey comment on a little bit more.
Thanks, Phil. The goal is that the community board members will be spokes, that they're going to create trust with members of the community who are going to bring in deposits for the bank. And after they bring in deposits, that they'll have business ideas that they'll develop relationships with between the universal bankers and the board members and the members of the community. And so the idea is that by developing that relationship, we will see increases in deposits at the bank and increases in the loans that we give out, that the source of those deposits and the source of those loans will be relationships of the board members themselves.
Great. And David, did you have any questions for the group?
I wonder if you could say a little bit more about what the partnership with Temple will mean in terms of really helping these Black-owned enterprises succeed and be sustained and grow. What do you think is needed in that partnership for this to be successful?
That's a great question. So when we were reaching out to members of the North Philadelphia community, a common theme that we kept hearing was financial literacy. And so the partnership with Temple University would allow ECB to tap into a robust education network that will allow us to be able to disseminate that knowledge throughout the community to help bring up that base level of knowledge and gain that trust that we need for both ECB and the small businesses within the community to be successful.
Excellent, excellent. So I have one last question for you all. You know, community is such a strong part of your proposal, and I'm wondering, are there any pay it forward elements for the businesses that actually utilize your programs? Are there any elements that will encourage this to continue to be a cycle of businesses coming to you all, as opposed to just success maybe in the first year?
I think this goes back to where Jeffrey spoke about us carrying businesses from the microloan stage all the way through to the traditional loans as they build success, and how they would then interact with other business owners, telling them, hey, this bank actually cares about the success of these businesses. They are not just lending money, they are facilitating us. And even at times in our proposal, we will be pairing with outside resources beyond ECB, because it would be in the best interest of the businesses. So through the tight-knit community in North Philadelphia and word of mouth between the Black-owned small businesses, we do believe that there would be a pay-it-forward methodology that occurs throughout the duration of the 10-year program.
Fantastic. Well, that is it for our question and answer portion. Thank you again, Temple University, and all of the groups that had fantastic presentations today. Now it's time for us as the judges panel to get to work on judging these entries.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad to be back with you. Thank you to all the teams. Just a really big round of applause for all three. They were just fantastic. And the judges are going to go deliberate and decide which solution will win the $10,000 prize today. I really don't envy that decision making, but I know we have the right judges in place. So listen, it's time for the Audience Choice Awards. In addition to the first, second, and third place awards that we'll give to them later today, we wanted to give you, the audience, a chance to vote on two things: the best presentation and the best Q&A. So the questions will come up on the screen now. And if you'll just take a moment to click on the prompt in the voting system that you see. First, enter your vote for the team with the strongest presentation. Think about, did you like their visuals? Did you like the overall flow better than the others? So I'll give you a minute to vote on that. Great. And then next, for the second and last Audience Choice Award, please cast your vote for the team who did the best job answering the judges' questions, who had the most cogent and the most poised and productive responses to those questions. Go ahead and vote. Great. Well, thank you for that. I can't wait to see how those votes tally up. The winners of the Audience Choice Awards will win another $1,000 per team. So please stay tuned until the end of the program to see if your favorite team won, along with the first, second, and third place winners. Now it's time to hear from our speakers. So I'll turn it over to our good friend, Lance Mull, the president and CEO of FedEx Freight. Lance, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lance Mull, President and CEO of FedEx Freight. For the last 3 years, I served as a judge for this competition, and while there's nothing like being all together, I'm grateful we have this opportunity to meet virtually. On that note, I'm honored to join you here at the 5th Annual MBA Case Competition. It's each of you, the leaders of tomorrow, who give me hope about our workforce and our future. As you all are focused on creating access to capital for Black entrepreneurs, I want you to know you're not alone in your mission to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion for all. Here at FedEx Freight, we believe investing in our people makes us stronger. And as a global company, we see business and community value in the diversity of perspectives our team members bring to work every day. Our diverse workforce, suppliers, and supporting culture all enable us to better serve customers and compete in the global marketplace, much like what you all are working towards as well. We know that our people are at the heart of everything we do. Our company was founded on a people-first philosophy, and it's one of the reasons Value All People is one of our strategic priorities. We have intentionally created spaces where team members can share their experiences, learn from one another, and grow in the process. Opportunities such as our business resource teams, including our Women's, Veterans, Hispanic Action Network, and Black Professionals Network, among others, continue to be catalysts for how we drive change within our organization and celebrate it in our communities. And as we work to remain among the world's best places to work, a key part of that effort is how we continue to recruit and retain a robust pipeline for diverse talent and future leaders. Right now, we're leading the 3rd tour of our boardroom experience. This is aimed at peeling back the layers of corporate culture for students at historically Black colleges and universities, and Hispanic serving institutions to bring awareness of career opportunities. But beyond our day-to-day operations, we also have a long-standing history of fostering relationships within the communities we serve to connect people and possibilities. Last year, more than 25% of our charitable contributions went to organizations that focus on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Together, we can help to make the communities we serve more equitable, empower diverse voices, and provide access to leadership and employment opportunities that inspire people to succeed. Thank you for allowing FedEx Freight to be part of this event, and good luck in the competition ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelsey Davis. I am the founder and CEO of Collective. Collective is the portfolio platform that connects creators to their next opportunity. I'm 24 years old. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I was able to build and scale a technology company in around a year. And we've been able to build a team of around 12 people, get noticed by people like Forbes 30 under 30, Techstars, Google, obviously the Chamber. And so I'm really, really excited to kind of talk to you guys today and just tell you a little bit about my entrepreneurial journey, how I, as a young Black entrepreneur, have navigated this space, and kind of just hopefully be able to give a little bit of advice, talk a little bit about my challenges, also a little bit about those successes, and then also talk about why a lot of the things that some of the students just spoke about is so important, right? And a lot of those market dynamics are things that we as a company see as well, and it also fuels a lot of the work that we are doing, right? So my story, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia originally. Before I got into tech, I was a full-time freelance content creator, producing content for global consumer brands like Coca-Cola, Land Rover, Puma, while being a full-time student at Syracuse University. And so while I was, making great money, traveling the world, working with all these brands, I was unfortunately failing out of school because I couldn't actually juggle that bandwidth, right? And so instead of choosing to go, just one lane or the other, I decided to actually figure out a way that I could solve for this bandwidth issue, right? I knew that all these brands that exist in the world want to connect with the next generation of talent. And I know that, early creators, early workers, they're looking every single day for how to connect with opportunities, right? And so I ended up meeting Brendan O'Keefe, who is my co-founder and COO. And he was somebody who was really able to help me take this billion-dollar problem and figure out how do we actually scale it into a scalable technology company, and not just, an idea that exists on this college campus. And so that's ultimately what we created with Collective, right? And so for me, I went really from a individual freelancer who was really good at a skill into how could I take this one problem that I'm identifying for myself and scaling it for ideally millions of people across the world. For me, there were a lot of challenges, right, that I saw within that overall process, right? So I think one is being able to identify a big vision despite your environmental constraints, right? I was somebody who, I was young, college student, right? Having to go to classes. I didn't have the opportunity for my parents to just, inject money into a family and friends around to ignite, my company, right? I had to figure out how can I kind of find these different resources and bootstrap a way to solve for these grander problems or ideas that I had, right? And so I think for me, it really had to do with leaning into purpose and really using my gut, which at the time I didn't realize your gut is really a data-driven thing, right? Your gut is fueled by, your historical life experiences, as well as your current ability to be conscious and aware of the market dynamics that are around you, right? And so for me, what that meant was, how could I know I'm great at videography, I know I'm great at film, but how can I kind of step into this higher level purpose of, directing not just film, but directing code and product and people in order to solve a higher scale problem that will then ultimately solve the issue that I had as a filmmaker, but then for a million other filmmakers, right? So I think really not getting stuck on the how it is that you're solving for what it is that you're solving about, but really being able to identify, what are the actual problems that you're trying to solve. For the students who were doing the case study, it very similar, right? We have this high level issue of, we know that, only 1% of venture capital is going to Black founders. We know, however, that there's huge discrepancies when it comes to underrepresentation of resources, money, et cetera, when it comes to these communities, right? So how do we solve for that at a high level, right? And then we productize and operationalize that through strategies, et cetera, right? So I had to figure out, as an individual who cared about certain issues, how was I going to take these higher level issues that I care about, but actually operationalize them, which is obviously what I ended up doing. So a big part of that really has to do with overcoming fear and doubt, really leaning into your purpose and really figuring out, what are your skills, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and really leaning into those gifts, right? We're all given gifts and certain core competencies that are just natural to us. And so I think when you marriage, the passion and vision of what you really care about within this domain expertise, it really gives you a lane to then solve problems well and be a contributing member to the economic society, ideally. And I think that's ultimately what it means to be an entrepreneur. So lastly, in that kind of overcoming fears, challenges piece, one thing I would really say is it's very important as an entrepreneur, as a business person, to create safe spaces, right? And to, do that yourself, right? At the individual level and then at the group level for the organization, right? So at the individual level, I, as Kelsey Davis, cannot show up for Collective or any other areas that I operate in if I first haven't established a grounds of what I need in order to show up for myself, right? For those who travel, that people say, put your mask on before you help other people. The same thing is true in entrepreneurship. However, the data shows that entrepreneurs are way more inclined to certain mental health challenges and dealing with certain things like anxiety, really because of this specific point. When we have these ideas and we have something that we identify as our baby, we will often then put that thing before ourselves. And in the short term, that may seem fruitful, but for many of you, you may know, I know I've seen it for myself, you can't actually run that full marathon and you will burn out if you don't actually do that, right? So creating a safe space for yourself and really identifying what that means and then showing up for that through a daily practice. And then same thing for the company, right? Being able to create not only the vision and the mission that you have for the company, but then what are those values, right? Culturally, how do we hold each other accountable? What things do we care about? Whether it's, trust, transparency, et cetera. And then how do you create kind of a aligned understanding of what those values are so that you can successfully operate as an organization as well. So those are some of the things that I think, over the past couple of years have really enabled me to operate in the growth that we've been able to see over the past couple of years, honestly. Some of those things after undergrad, my co-founder was a year younger than me, and so he had another year at Syracuse before graduating. And so I spent another year getting my master's of entrepreneurship. We then, during that process, were able to raise our initial money through, honestly, pitch competitions just as these, right? And so while I was a student at Syracuse University, I was in the process of literally applying to all of these types of competitions. We were able to bootstrap around $80,000. That capital then gave us the ability to essentially, build our MVP. At that point, MVP meaning minimum viable product. It's basically your prototype that you then use to ideally push to investors. From then, we were able to then get into Techstars, which is the leading global accelerator. And that happened in LA. And so we went from Syracuse to LA through Techstars, and then a lot of great things happened from there. Ended up getting some funding from Google, obviously got Forbes, and in the process of doing a lot of other great things that hopefully you guys will see in 2022. So that's kind of my story, kind of how I ended up going from a student who really just had a passion for making videos and really seeing a lot of issues that I had at the individual level of connecting to opportunities, as a young creative, right? And then being able to go into learning about technology, the market, and higher level things that then ultimately be able to solve for things at scale. So kind of in wrapping up a little bit, I want to talk about kind of our vision for the future, why we think that this whole conversation is important, and not only to identify, what the issues are, but also like how do we solve for this, right? And obviously, a lot of those ideas have been discussed today. So at Collective, we really believe that it's super important to address the disparities in access to capital for Black entrepreneurs. That's why we're all here. But how do we actually operationalize that, right? So our model and kind of what we believe, right, is that every human is a creator, right? Our ability to think and to solve problems and to think critically and to ideate and then to execute and perform is something that just makes us different, right, than a lion or a dog or a plant, right? These other biological beings, right? So that is what we identify as human beings as creativity, right? This solving problem or problem solving critical thinking model, right? And so the way that we do that in relation to monetization in our type of labor force is things like creator economy, right? So that's where you see your photographers, videographers, writers, designers, things like that, right? I think that's a very literal way to think about it. But at Collective, we really say if you as a human have an ability to monetize your human IP, you ultimately are a creator, right? And so that's really looking at the future of independent work and for individuals to be able to just kind of monetize off of their ideas at a high level scale and ideally democratizing the playing field. The reason why we believe today that's not happening is because I think we all know that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not, right? I'm sure that in all 50 states, there's super talented people, in all of these different cities, but that doesn't mean that they all have the same levels of access to information, education, tools, resources, etc. Right? So in order to fix that issue, what we really believe is that there must be new systems that are being built, right? These systems must be funded, ideally, for these people, right, of color, ideally Black people who are dealing with these issues, these underrepresented problems. And ideally, we have certain values that are represented and reflective of the community themselves, right? And we really believe that that will then ultimately restore the playing field. How do we do that, right? I think that we're already doing that through events like these, right? How do we kind of crowdsource ideas, solve problems, and then actually fund resources to then actually go into these communities and solve them? It's something that we do at Collective in the context of creator economy, really in the context of if you're again, writer, photographer, videographer, animator, anyone who's kind of thinking about future of work in the context of creativity, we're really kind of trying to lead the way around democratizing opportunity for America in that context, and working with any and everyone in order to bring that vision to life, right? So again, mission to you guys, really, I would say lean into your purpose, lean into identifying your gifts, and really figure out, how can I use these things that I already have in my direct space in order to actually operationalize these ideas and bring them to life. So good luck to all of the students. I'm really excited to see who takes home the gold, and yeah, excited to be with you guys.
Well, hello, everyone. That was amazing, Kelsey. Thank you so much for sharing your story and just being so constructive with your advice. I was listening to you and I wrote down like 15 questions that I want to ask you. So I hope you'll come back again sometime and we can delve deeper. I just think being 24 years old and having 12 employees is amazing. So congratulations and thank you again. And Lance, thank you so much for sharing the important work that FedEx Freight does to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a great company and we're just so happy to work with you on this each year. So we've come to the moment, the awards presentation. This is one of the best and most fun parts of my job. I'm really glad to be doing this. For the Audience Choice Awards, we had a few hundred people vote. People were really engaged and it was neck and neck. We had one that was ahead and another came in for the lead. The winning teams will each win, will win $1,000. So the votes are in. Your choice for the best presentation goes to NYU, to the Leonard Stern School of Business. Congratulations. And that was really well done because the team that earned the award for the best Q&A and the best poise and presentation was, again, the NYU team, the Leonard Stern School of Business. So good job. The Audience Choice Awards go to you 2 times, clean sweep. So thank you for that. Excellent job. Now I am pleased to announce the results of the judges voting. In 3rd place, taking home $3,000 today, is Temple University, the Fox School of Business. So thank you and congratulations to Temple. In 2nd place, receiving $5,000 in prize money, I would like to congratulate NYU, the Leonard Stern School of Business. So thank you and congratulations again. Really good work by both of those teams. And that, of course, means where we are now is that the winner in 1st place, the winner of $10,000, is the team from Rice University, from the Jones Graduate School of Business. So congratulations to you all. What hard work. And I can't tell you how much, on behalf of everyone at the Chamber and at the Foundation, you have just given us such a sense of optimism about the future and the work that you're going to do and the leaders that you are going to be. So thank you so much for participating with us today. It's been a great afternoon of really high quality work. Thanks again to FedEx for sponsoring this program, and a big thank you to our judges and our speakers for contributing today. It was a big group effort, and we're just all so invested in the work that these young people will do. So thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you're leaving as inspired as I am, as inspired as our team is, and we're all going to keep doing this hard work to create better and more equitable access to capital and more opportunities for more people everywhere. It's the work we do at the Chamber and the Foundation every day. So thank you for joining. Have a good day.